of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. I'm so glad you could join us today. We have another wonderful program for you. Caregiver Solutions is for the family caregiver. If you're caring for someone that can't care for themselves, another adult, maybe they have some cognitive disabilities, maybe in addition to some physical disabilities, we focus on the dementias, especially Alzheimer's type dementia, Parkinson's type dementia, Lewy bodies. This is a place where you can gain information and knowledge to help you along your caregiving way. So every week we are here and we actually have wonderful experts in the field, professionals that work with caregivers all the time for many, many years, and you can learn from their expertise. And so today we're going to be talking about some home care. Maybe you thought about it. Maybe you're not sure if you need it for your loved one, when you need it, what it is, what they can do. There's a lot of questions out there. And so the best thing you can do as a family caregiver is to educate yourself and look into all of these different areas, because when you are an educated caregiver, it really does help to make your caregiving journey a little bit better. It's a very difficult thing to do. People aren't raised to be caregivers. They're not going to school to be a caregiver. Sometimes it's just something that just shows up on their doorstep and they become an instant caregiver. And so I'm so happy that you're here today. At the halfway mark today, we're going to be giving away a book. And so you want to make sure that you have a piece of paper and a pen to write down how to get a free book, because it's a really great book. It's called The 36-Hour Day. It's a wonderful resource, and it's absolutely free. So stay with us, and we'll get to that shortly. So today I want to introduce to you a wonderful gal that I've known for many, many years. She's been in this industry for at least 10 years, and she has a lot of experience working in the home care field, in the assisted living field, with memory care, and she has a lot of experience and expertise to bring to us today to talk about this topic of having home care. And we're going to be talking about lots and lots of different services throughout the show today. So I want to introduce her to you now. Her name is Marcia Gordon. Marcia is the administrator of Jewish Family Services at Home. Hi, Marcia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Marcia. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much. Jewish Family Services, JFS at Home. It's affiliated with the Ruth and Norman Rales Jewish Family Services, which is located in Boca but licensed throughout Palm Beach County. Is that correct?
Exactly right.
Okay. So you are the administrator of this, and you help families when they need to know what the next steps are,
Exactly.
and help with that assessment, and go in and help those families and talk to them and look at the situation, right?
That is correct.
Right. So, yeah, and you're very good at it, and thank you so much. One of the things that people don't know about when they talk about home care, right? There's a lot of different types of home care. So we're going to focus on a couple things today that caregivers would need to know so they can kind of understand what is out there for them to actually have a resource. And that's what we're about today. It's all about resources.
Right.
And we have a lot of good resources coming today on the show. Later, we're going to be with one of your associates, going to be talking about some other resources as
Yes.
well. So I want to start with the private duty. That is care at home. And there's two types of care at home. One's private duty, and the other one is companion services, right? And you guys provide both. All right. So let's break it down.
Sure.
Kind of explain the difference between the two, first of all, and and you can go into detail about what that means. All right. So
Sure.
all right. So let's start with the private duty care at home. What does that mean?
Okay. Private duty care is for individuals who need assistance with their activities of daily living. So when a family caregiver is on a regular basis assisting their loved one with showering, dressing, meal preparation, standing by for safety to make sure they don't fall, whether they use a walker or need assistance transferring from one chair to another location in the home, that would be appropriate for a home health aide or a certified nursing assistant to come to the home and provide that assistance and give a break to the family caregiver.
Oh, that's great. Now, when you say activities of daily living, sometimes we abbreviate that in our industry, ADLs, right?
Right.
Explain what an ADL is and how many are there when you're talking about the areas that a home health aide can help with.
Sure. So when we talk about ADLs, activities of daily living, we think about ways in which an individual is not independent in their functioning. So when someone is not able to take care of their own personal care needs independently, that will most likely be an activity of daily living. So it could range from brushing their hair and grooming to showering safely, because there's you can fall in the shower if you're unassisted, if you have trouble with ambulation and balance, to being able to stand in a kitchen and cook for yourself, or even heat up a meal for yourself, all the way through continence and dressing. All of those are activities of daily living.
So all of that encompasses the services that can be provided by someone else to help
Absolutely.
somebody have a better quality of life.
Absolutely,
I mean, that's
yes.
basically the bottom line,
Right.
because that's what we all strive for, is a good quality of life, right? And so that is one type of service, having private duty, and I assume that means, it's private pay.
Yes.
Okay, so that's...
And long-term care insurance.
And long-term care. Okay, talk a little bit about that. How does long-term care play into having someone come into your house? What, as far as someone's policy, would that be in their
Absolutely.
policy, or what should
Yes.
they look for?
Yes. So we do know that long-term care insurance policies are highly underutilized. People started them typically in their 50s, and now our typical client is in their 90s. And we do hear from clients often, I don't know if I should use it yet. Yes, you should use it. It's time to use it. Most long-term care insurance policies will cover in-home private duty home care. There's usually a daily rate that the insurance will reimburse for. And for companion services, which we're going to talk about next, if an individual has documented cognitive impairment, then they will waive the need for assistance with ADLs. Because we know, as family caregivers, you all know, that you may have an individual who has a memory loss, but is still showering and dressing themselves, or may not even want to do that. But what the main concern is supervision for safety and stimulation and socialization. So luckily, I guess physician groups and other people in the industry were able to educate the insurance companies about this, and they did recognize it as a need, and they waive the requirement to have physical assistance, and they allow individuals with memory loss to have the support of supervision and socialization.
Wow, that is amazing. That's a really good thing to know because you mentioned about long-term care policies. A lot of people bought them a long time ago, right? And they usually don't even take the time to review them on a annual basis, let alone
Right.
maybe every 5 or 10 years.
Correct.
And they probably don't even know what their long-term care policy provides. And like you said, most of them do provide home care.
Yes.
Some of them have policies that provide not only home care, but maybe assisted living care, maybe nursing home
That's
care.
right.
But for the most part, home care, sometimes that's the only thing that they provide when people actually, I've seen a lot of long-term care policies, people have brought them to me, and they really need someone to look at it and,
Exactly.
and decipher that for them because they don't know what they
Yes.
actually have.
Yes. And we do hear from many adult children on a daily basis, and we'll often hear, I know my dad has a long-term care insurance policy. It's somewhere in his house. I'm going to be visiting. I'm going to take it out. I've never read it. Is there someone available to review it? So we do that. We do go over the policies, and I explain how they work to people, and we do assist them with, they have to file a claim, but once that claim is filed, we assist them with getting their reimbursement.
Well, that's really good to know because it can be overwhelming and daunting for someone that's not used to looking at policies, or like you said, an adult child that maybe doesn't live in the area coming down and here, help me with this,
Exactly,
right?
yes.
And then you can decipher everything that the benefit, all the things that are included in that,
Right.
so that you can break it down for them.
That's exactly
And I
right.
think everybody, if you do have a long-term care policy, or if you are an adult child and you want to check to see if your parents do, because they may have forgotten about it,
That's
and you
true.
might want to check it out because if your parents are needing help, there might be some free help per your policy.
That's right.
So when you are down visiting, ask, look, and see if you can help them in that way.
That's great advice.
Yeah, because we don't think about those things, right? And as people get older, they don't always like to share all of the details of their life with their adult children. They don't
Exactly.
want to either burden them, or they don't want to tell them their business for lots of reasons. And sometimes they just forget.
Right.
So that's a really, really good point. So I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, Marcia is going to be sharing about companion services and how that differs from the private duty. So we'll be right back.
Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back, and my guest today is Marcia Gordon. Marcia is the administrator of JFS at Home, affiliated with the Ruth and Norman Rales Jewish Family Services of Palm Beach County. Marcia, thank you so much for being here. We're talking about help at home and what people can get for helping their loved ones. And we talked about private home care, right? And now explain the difference between a private duty type person coming in and helping with ADLs and the difference between that and something called companion services.
Yes, so companion services are a wonderful way to assist your loved one who may be isolated, may have stopped participating in activities that they used to love. Certainly this occurs when a loved one, a senior, stops driving and they lose their independence in that way. Introducing a companion who is trained in the appropriate ways to socialize with seniors, be a buddy. Even when physical care is not needed, they still stand by for safety. They give a sense of security to the person who they visit, and they can certainly drive them to take them shopping, to medical appointments. They can provide feedback to you as the family caregiver. And, we understand family caregivers are not only those individuals living with their aging loved ones, they're also sometimes afar and trying to accomplish this from a distance. So having a set of eyes and ears on your loved one is really an enhancement and really brings peace of mind to adult children, who then can communicate directly with the companion to get the information that they want when, as Marcia mentioned, they may not be as forthcoming as you'd like. And you want to know, are they taking their medicine? Are they eating? Are they showering? Are they dressing? And it's not always the easiest to introduce this service, but we have over the years developed many techniques to make it pleasant and inviting for the senior to want to try.
Thank you. Well, that was a good segue, because my next question was, what about a senior who is very independent, maybe has a little bit of dementia or mild cognitive impairment? They're not too bad off, right? But maybe they're very stubborn, and maybe they feel that they don't need help, but yet maybe a neighbor is concerned. Maybe they've talked to, the children and saying, your mom is just being a little weird because she's doing things that she shouldn't be doing. And yet the person thinks that they're perfectly fine and they don't need any help. I'm sure you've come across this situation before.
I have.
Yeah.
Well, what I'll say is that something that kind of works to our favor is in the typical person that you just described, the client, they're usually not driving anymore.
Okay.
And that really helps. Although we do hear from family members who are not here in the state with their loved one that they don't want to be the bad guy and take the car away. Now, if you really do have concerns about safety for your loved one, it's very important that you reach out to a support group or a friend or someone who can help you to feel better about making that decision, because ultimately safety comes first. So when they no longer are able to drive themselves places, that really opens up the need to introduce someone. And then really, as long as we can get them to agree to meet the person for one time with no obligation, it's not like there's contracts, it's just an agreement for services that are provided, then usually, as long as it's a good match, and that's what we aim for, it is successful. And the caregiver, the companion, and the client get to know each other. They establish a rapport, and little by little, but it really depends on properly trained companions, because we really, in our agency, we train and remind them that they're not there to take over. They're not there to control. Seniors want to be independent. They want to feel that they are in charge, and they should. So, they have to ease their way in and develop trust.
Yeah. So it's a process.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned matching the client with the companion, right? It's almost like dating, right? Because you have Match.com and you're trying to match a guy and a girl to see if they're compatible.
Exactly right.
So it seems like that's kind of what you are, almost like a matchmaker, because you're a big part of putting those people together, right?
So, yeah.
So how do you do that when you have a certain particular personality? How do you go about trying to match one of your companions with that particular client? What do you look for?
Well, one of the nice things about home care is that usually an assessment is done in our agency. An assessment is conducted. We send out an RN to do an assessment, even if it's a companion client. We send out an RN who has the most knowledge and the most experience in this industry to assess, make sure they're appropriate for companion services and may not need something additional. And through that process and through us speaking with family members and possibly with the client, we really get a picture of what they're like, what their preference is for who they like to spend time with. We hear families telling us they need someone who's assertive. They need somebody who's going to really find a way to encourage them to go out and take a walk. Or sometimes we find that family members tell us that their parent is likes to be in control and needs somebody who's going to be more soft-spoken and not pushy. And all of these things are taken into account, as well as what their occupation was, what their hobbies are, what they like to do now. And we've been really lucky over the years to get to know our companions, learn about their backgrounds, and then almost miraculously, every time we find like something about a companion that just merges with the person who needs it, and they hit it off. That is the ideal scenario, and that's what we aim for.
Wow. That is like playing matchmaker.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes it works. And in your case, hopefully, mostly all the time,
Right.
because you really dig into it and you find out a lot of the details. So you said that a companion could drive somebody somewhere, right? So if you had a client that was still kind of with it, but she couldn't drive anymore. So that was the key to getting a companion to get her that socialization. But let's say she was a big gambler and she loved to go to Las Vegas and she loved the slot machines.
How did you know that happened?
I don't, but did it really happen?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making this up. I've been around the block a few times myself, but I'm just making something up, and you can share your story. But I was going to say, if that client wanted to go down to the casino and spend a few hours, could a companion go with them and stay there and make sure they're safe?
It really depends. I'll tell you, usually the answer is that we don't encourage that. So in the case, in our particular example, it wasn't really something that was in the best interest of the client, and the family didn't really want that to be going on. And the nice thing about utilizing a licensed home health agency for these services is that there's supervision of, even if it's just from administrators, overseeing and knowing that there's, a situation that needs to be addressed. When a caregiver or a companion works privately, it's sometimes harder for them to say no. With us, they can always blame the office. They can always say, that's not protocol, I need to call the office. And that really is very helpful. It's probably not the ideal way for a senior to be spending their day.
It's not an ideal way for anybody
Right.
really to be spending their
Right.
time and their
Right.
money,
Right.
because a lot of people, they have addictions and
Exactly.
they can go overboard. They get a
Right.
little too zealous. But, hey, if you got, $20 and you want to go play the pennies or the nickel slots, I mean,
Right.
they could be there for a long time, right?
Yeah, with private pay, everything is an individual case. We can never give a blanket statement unless something is unsafe.
Yeah. And that's the goal, to be
right.
safe and quality of life and to make them happy.
Absolutely.
Right. So I didn't know that was a case that you had, but anything goes, and you have to try to see if it'll work out, right?
Right.
Okay. I actually love that idea. Another question. If you match up someone with a client and for some reason, let's just say they don't get along, can they get somebody else? Can they keep trying people until they find that perfect match? Or
Absolutely.
they can.
Yes, absolutely. This is always a trial at first. We can never say for sure how a client will receive their companion or caregiver, and we don't know also how the companion or caregiver is going to feel about the client. So we try to share as much as we can and much as we know in advance with the caregiver or companion about the client, to set them up for success and give them tips of how to approach it in their first visit. If there's ever a time when there's a reason why they think they are not happy with the person we chose, then we simply try someone else. And this has happened, of course, and oftentimes they'll say that she's nice, but it's not who I want, but don't tell her. And so usually what ends up happening is we wait till after a visit, and then we tell them. The companions know not to take it personally, and then we just try someone else.
Just wasn't the perfect match.
Right.
So we're talking about all of these services, home health, companion services, through JFS at Home,
Okay.
which is part of the Jewish Family Services affiliation,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
I know a lot of people may be wondering, so I have to ask you, does a person have to be of Jewish faith in order to take advantage of these services?
Absolutely not. No. Our services, as well as all our employees, span the spectrum, and offer the services to everyone.
Well, I had to ask that because, I think
There's
it's
sometimes a
I
misunderstanding, sure.
think that it is a question that's out there because you are, faith affiliated, that people would wonder, well, I'm not Jewish, I'm Catholic or whatever. Can I still, get those services? Because they sound really great and, I really like,
Yes.
what they're saying. So
Yes.
they can. So that doesn't hinder anybody
No,
at
not
all.
at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. Glad to know that. Okay.
And we have a mix, like I said, our employees from the office through the caregiving staff are a range of backgrounds, cultures. So
Okay. Well, what about medical? How does medical services or how do medical services relate or get intertwined with having someone helping at home? Let's say if they see a problem that they are concerned about and they're not nurses or doctors. How does that work and what kind of training does someone that comes into the home have to recognize any medical problems?
well, the caregivers are all trained. They have their requirements in order to be certified nursing assistants, which is a licensure through the state of Florida, and a home health aide is trained with a specialized certificate.
Okay.
And so through that training, which we monitor, they are introduced to all the different warning signs, even though they're not going to be interpreting blood pressure readings and things like that. They know what to look for when it comes to like swelling of legs or a report of a racing heartbeat or a high blood pressure. And they are there. They are the eyes and ears. So they let us know. And then we have multiple routes that we can take. We do know who their physicians are. And as an RN, the person who initially does the assessment can call the family and notify them about something that the caregiver told us, or an office staff member can do the same. So we just try to keep the lines of communication open as much as possible. And in our case, and in the case of other entities like ours, if an agency or registry is able to provide skilled services, they can sometimes go above and beyond just the ADLs.
Great. That's good to know. And I think that in and of itself could be a reason why a lot of people might need someone in the home just to look for those issues,
Yes.
especially when their adult children are not coming in that often. Nobody really in the family can look in on them at that much, right? And so that would be really helpful for someone to look out for those types of problems that could be coming down the road with someone.
Yes, our family members give us really excellent feedback, and they're very grateful and appreciative for the roles because sometimes they're not present. And when they're not present, they're really relying on these caregivers. And it's a really necessary and wonderful thing to be able to provide.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be giving away that book I mentioned earlier, The 36-Hour Day. So have your pen and paper ready, and we'll tell you how to get it right after this break.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsors. Arden Courts Memory Care is a leader when it comes to memory care assisted living. Arden Courts has about 50 memory care assisted livings throughout the United States, and 10 of them here in Florida where we are right now. This is a wonderful opportunity for caregivers to try out a lot of the services that a memory care community has to offer. And one of the things that Arden Courts likes to do is to provide lots of resources and education for the caregivers. This is a book called The 36-Hour Day. It's a wonderful resource. It's written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace. It is a book all about dementia. It talks about the different types of dementia. It talks about tips in caregiving, definitions, scenarios. This is a wonderful resource. And if you are a caregiver for someone that has any form of dementia, I highly recommend this book. And today, because you've joining us either live on caregiversolutions.info, or maybe you're listening on the iHeartRadio app, or maybe you're listening in your car on one of the several Southeast Florida radio stations, this book is perfectly good for you, and it's perfectly free. All you have to do is send an email to delray@arden-courts.com. That email address again is delray, DELRAY, at Arden, ARDEN -courts, COURTS.com. Tell them when you send that email that you heard about the free offer of the 36-Hour Day book on the Caregiver Solutions Info Show. Give them your name, your address, and your telephone number, and they'll be very happy to send this book right to you, free of charge, and you can start enjoying the information that you receive right away. The book is very versatile, so you can read it from beginning to end, or you can pick and choose chapters depending upon what maybe situation you're going through right now as a caregiver. So don't delay. Send an email right away to delray@arden-courts.com. So today we're talking to Jewish Family Services, JFS, at home, affiliated with the Norman and Ruth Rails Jewish Family Services in Palm Beach County. And Marcia Gordon is with me, and she is the administrator of JFS at home. And we're talking about getting help at home for your loved ones, for your parents, for your spouse. And this has been very educational, and thank you so much we've been talking about. So let's say that someone has been listening to us and they say, gee, I think my mom or my wife could benefit from those services. How does somebody even go about initiating that? Do they have to get a referral from their doctor, or do they just pick up the phone? What do they say? Can you kind of walk us through that process?
For private duty services, there's no need for a referral, and it's simple and easy. You make a phone call to the agency of your choosing, and you'll usually speak with someone who'll take some information. If you're lucky, maybe they'll right there and then be able to have the initial conversation with you. And together you'll discuss what all the needs are that you're coming to them with. And usually from there, if it's agreed that the next step should be taken, then that would happen. So in some cases, people call, you may just want some information. You may want information and then call another place and compare the information that you receive. You may, after the conversation, in the case of my agency with myself or with another person in the office that will speak to you, decide that you need to go back to your loved one with this information and speak to them and see how they feel about it. Oftentimes, if we're talking about memory impairment, that's not really an option, and you want to speak about it with siblings or your spouse, and then you call back. But whenever you're ready to take the next step, we talk about the schedule that you want to have in place. We speak with our scheduling team and start to come up with the ideas of different available caregivers we may have, and at the same time notify our RN that there's an interested client who potentially wants services, and to contact you to schedule an in-home assessment.
Wow. So it's simple, really. Just
Yes.
make a phone call and you walk everybody through it.
Absolutely. We hold your hand the whole way and make it easy.
Wonderful. So all of this being said, and you've had 10 years experience in the industry and a long time helping caregivers and getting them help at home, can you give us a few stories, success stories of
Oh, sure.
maybe the before and the after, or what happened to a particular client and how you came to the rescue?
Well, sure, absolutely. There are so many. It's been a number of years doing this specifically. Before I get into any details, some of the types of like feedback and comments that we've heard over the years were things like a match made in heaven, you sent us an angel, it couldn't have been better. And that just is so heartwarming, and really it just is everything that we're aiming for. One specific example with us, one of the really nice things is that many individuals start out with companion services and then later on need assistance with physical activities. So at that point, often they've been very connected with their companion and don't want to stop having them in their lives. So we find a way to combine the two services. And in one such case, an individual started out with companion services, and that lasted about 4 years.
Really?
And then when that person needed physical care, we added in home health care. And then, interestingly, her companion decided to become a CNA,
Wow.
which was unbelievable, and it's not the only time.
She was motivated and
Yes,
inspired.
our companion was motivated and inspired to be able to help her client in additional ways. And ultimately, this individual was just a model of our mission, which is to enable seniors to age in place safely and with dignity. And this individual gracefully lived in her home till the age of 100 when she passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
that was
a great
wonderful
story.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had other cases where, like a gentleman, he was depressed. He was actually struggling with alcoholism, and with the help of actually his companion, he kind of brought life back into this individual. Got him to use a walker when he never wanted to. Got him out to socialize, to go to the library. So that was a huge turnaround for that individual.
Well, if someone's alone, right, and they're elderly and alone and they don't have family or friends and no socialization, they will turn to things like alcohol to make them feel better.
Yes.
And by having someone come in and providing the socialization and introducing the fun and just talking and just be able to relate, because everybody's meant to be with somebody, right? Everybody needs somebody, and we're not
meant to be alone.
we're not meant to be alone. No. And you know, some people they don't even know that they're depressed, really. You know, because they're self-medicating in different ways.
Correct.
And they do a lot of things that wouldn't be very good for their whole
Right.
body and psyche and all of that. And I think that is a great story, because look, now he's got someone to look forward to coming to see him, things to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the depression was lessened by that.
It really was. It improved a lot, and you know, the connection was a very good one and enhanced this client's life tremendously. There are so many different, you know,
Well, I have a
stories.
question.
Sure.
Thinking about different clients and different, you know, people that I've worked with through the years, a lot of the elderly people have dogs and cats. All right. So when it comes to animals and they have a companion coming in to the home, can that companion take care of the animal too, or is it just taking care of the client? Because dogs need to be walked and kitties need a litter box cleaned out.
Yes.
Are they allowed to do those kinds of things?
They certainly are allowed. They certainly are allowed. It's up to us to find the right match. So the more information that a family provides and the more the nurse is able to assess and really get the full picture, the better off we are to be able to, like I said before, inform a potential caregiver with as much information about this client before we match them, so that somebody doesn't call us back and say, you sent me to this home and I'm allergic to cats. So that's very important. But again, so it's the communication that's so important. That is definitely allowed. Does it make it more challenging? Yes, it does. It does. That's the honest truth, and anyone will say that. But we try. We don't turn people away. We really try. And if we can't, then they understand. But we try.
Yeah. Well, I just had to ask that,
Sure.
because a lot of elderly people have those pets, and those are their children.
Right.
And they need help, though. They can't always take care of them.
That's
So
definitely true.
thank you for
Sure.
sharing that. We had someone that lived at Arden Courts, and he had a bird, and so we said, "Yeah, you can
That's
bring your
true.
bird."
We had a client with a bird.
You did, yeah.
With a parrot.
And the bird would stay in his room. Sometimes it was a little bird, like a little canary.
yeah.
Would take him out of the cage. And I remember one time, I needed to go to his room to tell him something, and I knocked on the door, and so he said, "Come in." He goes, "But stop." And I looked down, and there was that little bird right on the floor,
Oh.
and he didn't want me to step on the bird,
So
right?
cute.
So I never forgot that, because that would be terrible. But it was really a wonderful situation, because he had somebody and something that he loved, and he
Absolutely.
didn't have to give it up just because he had dementia and had to go, into another place to live. So
That's
if
true.
people can stay home, have their pets, have someone help care for them,
Something as simple as making sure there's water in the cage for the bird.
yes.
And we've had clients with birds, and that's a simple task that can make all the difference in the world, because we wouldn't want that client to ever lose their bird.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
We're going to take our last commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about more services that seniors and the elderly can utilize. So we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias, and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
All right, we are back. I hope that you've been enjoying the show. We've been talking with JFS at Home, learning about services that you can get in your home for your loved one who might need either a companion or actually some hands-on services. And now we're going to expand that knowledge with a special person also from JFS at Home. Her name is Tricia Jacobs, and she is the community liaison for JFS at Home. Hi, Tricia.
Hey, hi. How are you? Thank you for having us.
I'm so happy that you're here. So you are a community liaison. First of all, tell me what that means, and then I'd like for you to share some of the additional services that people can tap into through JFS services and things that people need to know about.
Right. Oh, absolutely. So a community liaison. Basically, I am a community relations person to go out into the community, whether it be physician offices, discharge planners, and let them know about the services we provide. So I do work for JFS at Home. But the beautiful thing about that is that we support a lot of the programs through JFS. And they have many free services for seniors that are less fortunate financially. So my job, really, what I try to do is let the community know of these services and how to get a hold of someone to talk about them.
So you all at JFS at Home partner with Jewish Family Services so that everybody can get what they need, no matter like what type of thing that they're dealing with.
Right. So we have a variety of different resources to be able to send them to the right places.
All right.
For certain things.
I would love for you to start sharing about those resources and tell us what they are and tell us all about it.
Absolutely. So one of the important ones I feel, of course, is Meals on Wheels program, which a lot of families have heard about that in the past, but that would be ensuring that nutrition is available for seniors. They even have companion programs where they'll check in with them telephonically. They'll do
Well, tell me about that one, because is that where they call someone every day to make sure they're okay?
There could be a schedule, exactly, to check in with seniors and make sure they're okay, as you know, as a first step to getting some help.
So maybe every morning, seeing if they're up and at 'em and getting ready for their day, and that they're okay, that they
And-
made it through the night, because sometimes family members are worried about those kinds of things. What if mom or dad fell during the night, right? And they couldn't get up and get help. So so if they call and they can't get a hold of the person, what would happen?
Yeah, so at that point, there would be a system in place to be able to contact, like you say, a family member, a neighbor, or someone that could further check on the
Okay,
client.
so that's kind of all set up ahead of time so that you know the protocol of
Right.
what to do. Well, that's very good
Helpful to
service
know.
and very helpful, invaluable in a lot of cases. That's great to know. What else do you have?
So the main thing would be they have a financial assistant program. They have a transportation and ride program. I believe there's a membership fee for that, and they could get some assistance with running activities or being driven. So a lot of information and referral programs. And really, a family would just have to call our main number, and then we would be able to tell them which programs are available to help them if they tell us the needs that they have.
Okay.
And it's an easy number.
Yeah? Okay, go ahead and give it to us.
It's 561-852-HOME, HOME. And if you call that number, then you'll be able to explain kind of what you're looking for, and then we would have the resources to be able to send you to the right department, because there are many programs. They have a Weissman Center, a community center where seniors can actually go and socialize. So they have help for, family behavior, therapies and so forth.
Okay, great. Well, I know that you've been in the healthcare field for many, many years,
Oh,
and you've
gosh.
been around for helping seniors and helping families get resources that they need, and even through dementia issues, you've been very
Absolutely.
involved with that. So, from your perspective, what do caregivers go through that is common, but they might not think it's common, that it might be like a tip to them that maybe I should look into some of these services? Can you describe some scenarios where a caregiver might need help and where they should, look at, like, for instance, maybe a support group?
Right, that would be a good starting point. Usually what I found was the family member would come and visit their elderly parent because they lived out of state, and they would find little things at the home that would kind of trigger them realizing that their parent needed help, and it could be not taking their medications, food being spoiled in the refrigerator, maybe not showering as often, and things of that will trigger when it's time to try to maybe step in and get someone to check on them once in a while. Mm-hmm. That would be a good one. Sometimes even the physician's office might notice, a change or forgetfulness, things of that sort. But it is definitely a transition, and it's always good to know, to kind of be prepared to know what your next step would be or who you would call when the time comes.
Yeah, and that's what we're all about. We want to prepare, we want to educate, we want to know what the next step is, because the worst thing that could happen is if a caregiver finds himself in a crisis situation at the end of the rope, right? And that is really bad for them, really bad for the person they're caring for.
Right, to kind of have a plan and not, have it be in crisis mode. Kind of have some ideas in place. But and the wonderful thing about the JFS is they have a lot of resources to help the families in different directions.
Okay. And are those services all free? Some of them might have a fee, but are for the most part they're complimentary services?
At least the initial conversation, and then finding out if someone has financial issues and maybe need to see if they could apply for some other programs that would
And there's someone there that could help them to determine that
Exactly.
and see if they could get them more services, even if they have a financial difficulty, because there's someone like a social worker that could work with them and
Absolutely.
fill out the applications and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
really good. I mean, this is great information.
Thank you.
I think you and Marissa Gordon are a great team and out there communicating to everyone about resources that are available in the community. Now, if you at home or someone listening to us, if you hear what they've been telling you, and you're not in Palm Beach County because that's where you all are licensed. Where would someone go to find similar services? Are there ways that they can call certain agencies?
I was going to say area agency on aging.
Okay.
There might be that in their communities there. That would be a first resource.
Okay, yeah, that is a good one. Area Agency on Aging. If you are looking for something like what we're talking about today, and you're not in Palm Beach County, or your loved one's not in Palm Beach County, but you definitely feel that this is something you want to look into, so I think it's a great idea. Start with the United Way or with Area Agency on Aging. Check with some of your local, even your doctor's office could be actually a resource. A lot of, because you are a community liaison, so you go into doctor's offices, tell them about the services so that they can help their patients. And so if you're not in this area, check with your primary care physician, because they probably have a resource center where they can direct you to similar services just like JFS at home. Right?
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Been great to having you. I want to strongly urge everyone to be prepared. Like, Tricia was saying, have a plan. Don't delay. You could call JFS at home, ask them additional questions. And like Tricia said, it's an easy number. It's 561-852-HOME. I love that. Makes it easy. And call them up and get the information that you need. You can probably talk to someone on the phone right away, and you can actually ask for Marissa, and she would be your point person. And you can say, hey, Marissa, I saw you on the Caregiver Solution Info Show with Marcia, and you were talking about this and that, and I really want to know more about it. And call and ask for Marissa Gordon at 561-852-HOME, HOME, and she'll be happy to help you. Also, if you are wanting to get this book, the 36-Hour Day book, don't forget to email us. The email address is delray@arden-courts.com. It's DELRAY at arden-courts.com. It's a great resource. It's free. It is something that every caregiver should have on their bookshelf. Is something that I highly recommend. So you want to go ahead and get that. Also, there are a lot of other resources in the community. If your loved one maybe already has some help at home, but maybe, and I should ask you about this too, Tricia, because we do know about daycare centers, and sometimes someone needs to go to a day center, and they might have help at home, but that companion can take them to a day center, and then they can actually socialize with their peers.
Right.
And how important is that?
That's a great stepping stone into getting them also socializing, and really keeps them busy and, like you say, happy.
Yeah. And I think, the first step is getting help at home, because people do want to age in place. They do want to stay in their home. They feel comfortable in their surroundings, and keeping them safe in their surrounding is awesome. So most times we all recommend having help at home. And then the next step might be having a daycare center where they can go and join and be with other people, and then eventually maybe transition from that into a regular assisted living or a memory care assisted living. Would be the next step. And then the step after that, if someone needs to go further, either for financial reasons or medical reasons, then it would be like a skilled nursing facility for long-term care. And I know you have been in all of those types of environments.
I have.
Yes, and those are important. The step you mentioned, stepping stones, which reminded me to share about that, because it is stepping stones. And every caregiver's journey is different, and not every caregiver will be stepping on all of those stones for their loved one. And, people can pass away at home under hospice care, with a companion. People can go into assisted living or memory care. And of course, the last place before heaven might be a long-term care facility like a nursing home. But whatever the situation is, I guess I just want to let you all know that there are kind, compassionate people out there to help you all along the way, whether it's like JFS at home, or whether it's another one of those stepping stones, that there are resources and there is help for you. So I don't want you to feel alone, because all you have to do is ask, and sometimes we're afraid to ask, right? But don't be afraid. It is something that the healthcare professionals have a heart for, and they definitely want to help you. So thank you again, and so glad you and Marissa could join us today on the Caregiver Solution Info Show. And thank you all for joining in too. Thank you so much, and tell others about the Caregiver Solution Info Show. We'll be back next Tuesday, 6 o'clock p.m. for another wonderful treat that you can learn about, and something that you can join in, and from the actually comfort of your own home, and listening to us and watching us. And we are so glad that we can be here for you. So until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.